Whoa, happy friggin' Halloween. So it's like 11:10 and 11:10 p.m. and I'm like, "Hey, you know what? I haven't exactly, done anything Halloween related other than the recent live stream that I did with my fellow Stooges from Stooges Play, which was our playthrough of Phasmophobia. We played a couple rounds the other night, and we thought that it was really fun. And that was kind of our unofficial Halloween special. But I want to do something actually for my channel, just for me now, and that is talking about Hammer Horror. So, Hammer Horror or Hammer Studios made a bunch of movies back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, all related to classic monsters and some of their own original stuff as well. And I just wanted to talk about like different releases and stuff like that of, Hammer horror films and stuff like that. And just talk about, which are good, which are okay, and so on and so forth. So, let's get into it, with right here, The Curse of Frankenstein. Now, this is personally my favorite Hammer horror film and one of my favorite Frankenstein movies. So a lot of people, don't know that Hammer, because a lot of people just assume that all the Frankenstein movies from back in the day are all from Universal, and that's not true. A lot of people didn't know that Hammer really kind of changed the game for a while because for the longest time, horror films and movies in general were like really tame, and then Hammer kind of came in and just kind of kicked the movie industry right in the stomach and was like, yeah, guess what, there's a new status quo. And they had blood, they had sex, they had like over the top violence, and it was all in color too. So that was a huge deal, and it was just crazy. Back then it was considered nuts. Nowadays it's a little more kind of tame by today's standards. But this is great. So this is Curse of Frankenstein, released by Warner Brothers as part of their archive collection, as you can see up here. This is a two disc special edition starring Peter Cushing as Dr. Victor Frankenstein, or also known as Baron Victor Frankenstein, and it has Christopher Lee as the monster. And what's interesting about that is that Christopher Lee would also go on to be really big for Hammer because he would also play Count Dracula in most of their Dracula movies. But this is part of the archive collection. I used to have a kind of bare bones DVD copy that also was a double feature with Dracula. And honestly, that release wasn't all that great, but this release is actually really good. It's actually good quality. So I recommend it, if you can get your hands on it. So this is where we immediately get into the problem with Hammer releases, or at least in the United States. I know in some other countries and territories, it's a little bit different, where everything's under kind of like one banner or one studio or whatever. Meanwhile, in America, at least, a lot of these Hammer movies are actually released under different companies. So a prime example is the direct sequel, The Curse of Frankenstein, which is the Revenge of Frankenstein. Also starring Peter Cushing. In fact, Peter Cushing is in almost every one of these Hammer Frankenstein movies except for Horror of Frankenstein. And Revenge of Frankenstein, as you can see, was released by Columbia Pictures. So this one, believe it or not, I've had this movie for a very long time. It's been in my collection for a while. And I remember I bought this movie at Kroger back when Kroger actually sold DVDs. And a lot of people don't remember that. A lot of people are like, wait, Kroger sold DVDs? The answer is, believe it or not, yes, Kroger actually used to sell DVDs. I couldn't believe it myself. Now, not even the big chain stores like Walmart still sells DVDs and Blu-rays. They may be the last ones to still sell DVDs and Blu-rays after all this time, because Target recently stopped selling DVDs and Blu-rays, or at least in my area they did, so that's kind of sad. Let's continue on. So this leads to the third film in the Frankenstein series. See down here, Evil of Frankenstein. And this is actually the Hammer Horror Series 8 film collection. You got Brides of Dracula, The Curse of the Werewolf, Phantom of the Opera, Paranoid, The Kiss of the Vampire, Nightmare, Night Creatures, and The Evil of Frankenstein. This is released, I believe, yep, by Universal, and it's. I don't know if Universal had a hand in all of these particular releases. I know they actually had a hand in Evil of Frankenstein, but other than that, I'm not really sure exactly like what they had to do with the other movies. I didn't do a whole lot of research on that part, so I apologize for that. But these movies are like really good. I do highly enjoy them. So I definitely recommend that you check them out. This is just part of an 8 pack. So if you want to just build up like a big collection of Hammer horror films really quickly and easily, this collection is the way to do it. This collection is also available on Blu-ray, so I recommend you do that as well. That you pick it up on Blu-ray. Frankenstein Created Woman. So this was released by Shout Factory under their Scream Factory print or Subline prints, whatever you want to call it. Again, Peter Cushing, Frankenstein Created Woman. Personally, I like this movie. I know some people are kind of iffy on it. I think it's pretty good. Other than that, I wouldn't call it necessarily like the best out of the series, but it's definitely far from the worst. This I think actually also got a release from Warner Brothers. I know that it was kind of out of print for a little while, or at least it was every time I looked for it, but I think it's actually come back into print because I saw it on sale on Amazon not too long ago. So this is also from Screen Factory and Studio Canal. I said Scream Factory and Studio Canal. You can see the Studio Canal logo down here. This is Horror of Frankenstein. So this is pretty cool. This one does not have Peter Cushing in it. This is sort of kind of like a dark reboot parody of Curse of Frankenstein. It's not for everybody, and some people have even argued that it's really not that good of a movie in comparison to previous and future Frankenstein movies from Hammer. But yeah, I think it's all right. So, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. So this is a release from Warner Brothers. Again, Peter Cushing's back. I actually really like this one. It's a little weird, but it is pretty good. So I definitely recommend this one. The Most Frightening Frankenstein movie ever. I don't agree with that one. I actually think that Curse of Frankenstein is my favorite out of the whole bunch. Now here's an interesting one. This is released by Scream Factory, and this is Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. Crazy title. This movie is interesting. It has Peter Cushing again as Dr. Frankenstein, but it also has Patrick Troughton in the movie, and it also has David Prowse as the monster. And if you don't know what the connection there is, Patrick Troughton was the second Doctor in the TV series Doctor Who. Peter Cushing was the movie version of the Doctor from the movies Doctor Who and the Daleks and Dalek Invasion Earth 2150 AD. And David Prowse was the physical actor that played Darth Vader in the suit in Star Wars. But what's really funny is that Peter Cushing also played Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars. So that was pretty cool. Definitely, recommend checking that out. It's an okay movie. It's the last of the Frankenstein movies from Hammer. So there's some bits of it that I would say like are really not, all that great, but it's all right. Horror of Dracula. So this is just known as Dracula in the UK. This is also from the Archive collection by Warner Brothers. And Peter Cushing plays, Abraham Van Helsing, while Christopher Lee plays Dracula. And honestly, this is probably one of the best Dracula movies ever made. Highly recommend it. Check it out. It's really fun. This one is from Universal and Scream Factory. Brides of Dracula. Personally, I think this is an okay movie. Count Dracula himself doesn't really show up in it, and I will admit the ending is kind of dumb. but it's all right. It's all right, you know. Dracula, Prince of Darkness. This is released by Scream Factory. This is where the Dracula series kind of starts being dumb. Peter Cushing really didn't, or not Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee didn't really like the scripts that were being given to him after the after the first movie, and so he kind of just like fucked off, for a bit, and he just didn't care about the script, so he kind of just was quiet for a majority of these movies, so they had to give his dialogue to other actors, which is weird. So, but yeah, Prince of Darkness, so that's a cool one right there. So there you go. Let's see here. So, okay, this one's really weird. So Dracula has risen from the grave. Okay, so this is released by Warner Brothers. This one's not that great, in all honesty, but I want to point something out that's just really weird. So this movie is not rated. This movie is, as far as I can tell, yeah, this one's not rated. This movie's not rated. I'm assuming most of these would be rated R. Yeah, this one's rated R. This one's rated R. This one is, for some reason, rated PG. And this one is rated R. But, okay, out of all these movies, though, this one's the weirdest. Because Dracula's Risen from the Grave, which has a lot of murder, death, violence in it, is rated G for general audiences. I don't know how that happened. I think other people pointed it out before. And I totally forgot that this one was rated PG. It's so weird because there's a lot of violence, death, and blood in this one, but we'll get to it. So you get to Taste the Blood of Dracula. Taste the Blood of Dracula. This one I actually do like. Some people kind of crap on it and say that's really not that great. I think it's okay, honestly. The Dracula movies, similar to the Hammer Frankenstein movies, got weirder as they went on, but this was, this is all right. Scars of Dracula. So Scars of Dracula, in a similar fashion to Horror of Frankenstein, honestly, is not, like, it's not in the same continuity, but that's kind of like a loose thing to say because like most of these movies don't really have a strong continuity anyway. But Scars of Dracula, which is released by Studio Canal and Scream Factory, by the way, it's sort of like Hammer's like attempt at rebooting Dracula, but they still brought Christopher Lee in to play Dracula. Patrick Troughton's in this movie as well, which is really funny. But it's just weird. It's kind of like a really generic Dracula movie. I don't really think it's all that like great. I don't think it's all that bad. It's just kind of like in the weird middle for me. Then we get this Dracula AD 1972. So this movie's dog shit. I really don't like this movie. I think it's just really, really bad. I often skip it. I watched it with my dad about like 5 or 6 years ago. And honestly, I thought it was dog shit. And he thought it was dog shit. I think my whole family thought it was dog shit. So there you go. Here's a good one. The Satanic Rites of Dracula. Read that title to your grandma. So this is from the archive collection from Warner Brothers as well. Honestly, it's okay. It's not that great of a Dracula movie, but it is a slight improvement over 1972. So then here is the Hammer version of The Mummy. This has Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee in it again, which is pretty cool. I actually really like this movie. It was released by Warner Brothers, and I recommend it. I definitely recommend it. You guys should definitely... Ooh, almost dropped that shit. This is what happens when you're recording everything with one hand while holding the camera with the other, so we're going to put that back in there. Okay, so I'm going to actually hold some of these movies up because we've only got a couple releases left, like 3 or 4 or so. So right here we have Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter. I found this at Half Price Books. So this is interesting. This was released by Paramount, by the way. And so, yeah, this is released by Paramount. This movie is okay. It was supposed to be part of a bigger franchise that Hammer was working on, but it never really, went anywhere. It's an interesting movie. So, if you're really bored and you kind of just want like a cheesy, like, we must kill the vampire kind of movie, definitely get like Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter. That's pretty cool. They did make a sequel many years later in the form of a comic book, but that's what it is. So this is another multi-pack. So this is the Hammer Films collection. So this has 5 movies. You have The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll, Stop Me Before I Kill, Scream of Fear, The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, and The Gorgon. And you can see the back here, you little posters, runtimes, screen ratios, and all that. So there you go. All in all, it's 7 hours and 24 minutes. So you got almost 8 hours to kill. And this was released by Mill Creek Entertainment. So there you go. And the final Hammer film I got, I'm not even really sure. Some people say this doesn't count, but is The Woman in Black. So The Woman in Black, starring Daniel Radcliffe, actually was, it was produced by Hammer, or at least partially. And I like this movie. I think it's kind of a return to form for Hammer. I really wish that Hammer had a bigger impact on modern cinema. But yeah, I know they did a live stream about a year ago talking about all the stuff that they were going to do, and then they kind of just like fucked off and just disappeared for a while. Either way, that is my Hammer horror film collection, and some little tidbits here and there. I hope you all highly enjoyed it. If you didn't, I'm sorry. But if you did, leave a comment, like, subscribe. I'm gonna go and eat a bunch of candy and watch all these movies before midnight, which you would think would be impossible since it's almost midnight now. But you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta believe in yourself, dog. You know what I'm saying?